All right, in this video, I'm gonna tell you the fastest way to build muscle as a man over 40. Because here's the thing, now that you're 40, 50, 60, 70, or even 80, wherever you're at in your fitness journey, you can still build muscle, but you gotta make sure you're doing everything that's required to build muscle efficiently. Now, I work with a lot of men over 60 and 70. They are even building muscle, but the rate is a lot slower than the 40s and 50s. So just keep that in mind. Although you may be 60 or 70, don't give up on your muscle building efforts. That's the main point I wanted to get across. So 40, 50, you can still build muscle fairly easily. And building muscle is never easy, but easy in comparison to someone that's a lot older, as long as you're doing the things I'm about to show you. Now, the first thing, obviously nutrition is gonna be paramount, but we all know that. I'll touch on that here in a minute. The most important thing that I really want you to focus on is your workouts. Now, you gotta make sure you're challenging your body enough. That's the main thing. The biggest fault I see in people trying to build muscle that aren't getting those results is they're just not challenging themselves enough. They're going through the motions, or they're just not pushing enough weight. Now, I'm a big proponent of you can build muscle using lighter weights. However, you still have to stimulate that muscle. You've got to use a lot of different techniques, like my TRICON training, drop sets, supersets, giant sets. You really need to make sure you're putting a lot of time under tension on the muscles you're working, and also working out with enough intensity. That's the biggest key. The second thing is, once you figure out how to work out hard, it doesn't require heavy weights. Working out hard can be intensity with a TRICON set. But once you have that component down, well, there's something called progressive overload. You still have to continue to improve, whether that be lift a little bit more weight from month to month, a few more reps from month to month, or do a few more intensity techniques. So you can't just stay status quo doing the same thing day in, day out, week in, week out, and expect your body to respond by building more muscle. You've got to give it a reason to build more muscle. Our bodies want to stay the same. That's the thing. So our bodies are really good at adapting. So let's give it an example. If you're doing dumbbell bench press and you're doing 40 pounds for 8 to 10 repetitions, that's great. But you want to get to where you can either do that same 40 pounds for 12 to 15 repetitions down the road using strict form. Don't just start trying to add more reps just for the sake of adding more reps. You want to make sure you're still controlling the weight and using good form. Now, more repetitions is only one form of progressive overload. Another is adding more weight. So instead of the 40 pounds, let's bump up to 45 pounds for 8 to 10 repetitions. That's another form of progression. Now, once you get 45 pounds, you don't always need to just add more weight. So then I like to incorporate some TRICON sets. So now that you've gotten 45 pounds of 8 to 10 repetitions, for the next month, for instance, so now we're in month 2 or 3, you want to dial back on the load, the amount of weight you're lifting, and do a TRICON set with that weight to add more intensity. So things like that are gonna help you continue to grow. So that's one of the biggest things. Challenge yourself, push yourself, get some really good intense workouts, and then use some progressive overload. That's gonna be key to doing that. Next thing, make sure you're working out about 4 days per week. So when it comes to muscle growth, you can do 3 days a week and still be okay. It kind of depends on the split that you're doing. However, when you're really trying to focus on growing more muscle, I don't really like the full body splits. So that's typically why I like the 4-day splits. 4 days on, 3 days off. You can do 2 days of workouts, Monday, Tuesday, take Wednesday off, work out Thursday, Friday, take the weekend off. Some people prefer to work out on weekends and work out less days during the week. So that's fine as well. Just try to make sure that you're doing your resistance training 4 days per week using progressive overload. The next thing, you gotta make sure you're utilizing compound movements. So the multi-joint movements. So we're talking different variations of squats. It can be goblet squats. It can be front squats, dumbbell squats. You don't have to do the barbell back squats. I don't usually recommend those for my older guys anyways, not only because the form is hard to get when you lack mobility in your shoulders and your hips, but it can put a lot of spinal compression on you as well. So I typically stay away from the barbell back squats and do a lot more of the front loading squats, goblet squats and things such as that. Another thing I want you to focus on though is doing some unilateral leg work. So it doesn't always have to just be full body squats. You can do lunges. You can do Bulgarian split squats. I enjoy doing those for my older guys because it also helps keep you from getting any imbalances from one side or the other. You're working each side independently. And then it also helps improve that range of motion and the mobility in your hips, in your knees. So I really love doing unilateral stuff. So I would definitely recommend incorporating some of those. Now, some of the upper body compound movements are your bench presses. So dumbbell bench press, dumbbell incline press, things like that are really good options. Shoulder presses for your shoulders, your dumbbell shoulder presses. You want to make sure you're also doing some isolation stuff for shoulders though. So some dumbbell lateral raises. Anytime you're working the front delts, you're doing overhead presses, you're going to get a lot of stimulation in the anterior portion of your shoulders or the front, but you also want to make sure you're not neglecting the sides. That's going to give you that width. And one of the only exercises to do that is a form of a lateral raise. Dumbbell lateral raises or cable lateral raises, things like that are going to help broaden your shoulders. Another cool benefit to broadening your shoulders is your waist is going to appear smaller. So it's an illusionary thing that you like to focus on because it allows you to look slimmer in your waistline. Now, some other exercises you want to make sure you're doing, either a back row, a lat pull down. I like doing two different variations of back exercises, a vertical back exercise and a horizontal back exercise. So you can do a pull up if you're capable, or just doing a lat pull down will work fine. And then dumbbell rows are a really, really good overall back exercise. Those are some of the compound movements you want to make sure that you're doing. When I say isolation movements, make sure you're still doing some barbell curls. You want to round out your body. You want to make sure you got your biceps getting worked and things like that as well. But if you're doing those exercises with each workout, then you're going to get good results as long as you're challenging yourself and you're pushing yourself. All right, so now that you know the frequency of working out and the duration and the volume, you got to make sure on those 3 days you're off that you are allowing adequate rest and recovery. So rest and recovery, I'm talking when you're sleeping 7 to 9 hours of quality sleep. You got to have your sleep. 7 to 9 hours of quality sleep. Focus on that deep REM sleep. That's when your body's going to produce more testosterone and growth hormone, but also it's when your body's going to repair and replenish from these workouts. So you want to make sure you're really prioritizing that rest and recovery, which is why I recommend 4 days of resistance training and not 5 or 6 that some other people tend to do. And now we started out talking about nutrition. Nutrition is going to be critical here. Focus on protein. Protein is going to be huge. So you want to make sure your protein levels, I'm always going to recommend higher protein, 0.8 to 1 gram of protein per pound of your goal weight. If you want to be 180 lean pounds, get close to 160 to 180 grams of protein. Why? Because you only have 3 macronutrients. You got your protein, you got your carbohydrates, and you got your fats. You don't really need a whole lot of carbohydrates. With that said though, I do want you to eat some carbohydrates. But at the end of the day, if you're looking at all 3 macros, protein is gonna provide the most benefits, not only for muscle growth, but metabolism boosting benefits. Your body has to burn more calories to digest the protein. So that's another benefit there. So really focus on getting protein about every 3 to 4 hours. If you're getting 30 grams of protein every 3 to 4 hours throughout the day, you're gonna maintain adequate muscle protein synthesis, which is going to be key. You're going to have a steady supply of amino acids in your bloodstream. So when your body's trying to repair, build, and grow, you're going to have enough of those so your body can actually start building more muscle. Now, that's the main thing. But going back to carbs, do not be afraid to eat carbs, especially when your goal is building muscle. Now, if you're trying to get lean, ripped, shredded, then I like to carb cycle or even cut back even more on the carbohydrates. But when your goal is to build muscle, you need to eat carbohydrates. You just want good sources of carbohydrates. I'm talking beans, rice, potatoes, quinoa, multi-grain breads or Ezekiel breads, like a sprouted bread, some fruits. All those are going to be really good options. So you want to make sure you're eating some good carbs to not only fuel the intense workouts you should be doing, but for adequate hormone optimization, and also make sure you have enough to recover, rebuild, and replenish as far as glycogen stores. You want to have enough glycogen in your body so you can push a little bit heavier weight to increase the intensity and increase the loads of your lifts. That's going to help you improve with your muscle strength. So hopefully all of that makes sense. Quick bullet points. You want to make sure you're eating your protein, 30 grams every 3 to 4 hours. And that's just minimum. If you want 40 grams every 3 to 4 hours, that's fine as well. Just make sure you're prioritizing your protein and you're getting that in. Don't be afraid of carbohydrates, especially since you're trying to grow. Make sure you're eating carbs with 2 or 3 of your meals each day. That's going to be sufficient for you. And then also challenge yourself, push yourself with your workouts. Focus on progressive overload with your exercises, specifically with your compound movements. So when it comes to isolation exercises or lateral raises and barbell curls or dumbbell curls, you don't really need to go really heavy with those. You don't really need to focus on a lot of progressive overload with those isolation exercises. The overload's going to be important with the compound movements. Again, some of the squats or the bench presses or the pull-ups or pull-downs, the barbell rows or dumbbell rows. All of those exercises are where you want to prioritize your progressive overload and make sure you're challenging yourself enough to allow your body to get that growth response. And again, lastly, on the rest and recovery, 7 to 9 hours of quality sleep each night. Focus on making your sleep environment as comfortable as possible so you get into the deep REM sleep. Because again, that's the time your body's going to produce the most testosterone, which is going to extremely improve your muscle building efforts. Now, with that said, I hope you liked the video. A little different format here. So I just am about to go to the gym to work out for the day, ending my day. So hopefully this isn't too distracting with this format. But thanks so much for watching my video. I appreciate you watching all of my videos and commenting on my videos. And again, thank you so much. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to leave those in the comment section. Other than that, get busy, get after it, and God bless.